I really like romance stories. Despite being single for the last 19 years of my life, romance as a genre never fails to impress. From heartbreak stories to cute developing relationships, something about observing blooming love feels human to me. Which is why when reading Seasons of Blossom, I was expecting that same fuzzy feeling of joy and comfort that many series often provide. But Seasons of Blossom isn't just another feel-good romance. It caught me off guard in a way I never anticipated and shattered my expectations, leaving me grappling with emotions I wasn't prepared for. The series takes the familiar metaphor of changing seasons, often used to symbolize the cycles of life, and transforms it into a profound exploration on mental health. What started as a lighthearted story that had me lying on my stomach with my feet kicking in the air quickly turned into a gut-wrenching experience that destroyed my perception of mental health struggles. And it all begins with spring, a time for new life and new beginnings, setting the stage for a story that is as heartwarming as it is heartbreaking. Bomi's Flower is the first 30-chapter season of the series and follows the dramatic relationships between high school friends in the form of a love triangle. I enjoyed the first season for what it was, a cute romance story about the female lead being true to her feelings and not falling for the pitfall of spring. Despite the alluring charm of Jaemin, Bomi goes through the breakthrough of true love and her false attachment to him. Like other depictions of spring in literature, this season highlights the innocence of youth and new discoveries. Bomi, who hadn't fully understood her relationships, comes to understand what it means to be romantically involved with somebody, leading to her relationship with Jinyoung. While the first season drew me in, it was the later arcs that truly etched the story into my heart, diving deeper into complex human emotions and relationships. As the warmth of spring fades and the days grow longer, the story of Seasons of Blossom transitions into the intense heat of summer. Season 2, the summer arc, marks the point where Seasons of Blossom truly changed from a regular romance webtoon into an exploration of the human experience that literally just broke my heart. The narrative turns its attention to Jaemin and the lingering shadows of his traumatic past, specifically the loss of his older brother Hamin. Through the introduction of Samang, Hamin's past lover, the layers of Jaemin's pain, regret, and anger are slowly peeled away, exposing the raw scars left behind by suicide, isolation, and the crushing weight of unspoken words. The summer arc intertwines two different timelines, juxtaposing the present-day struggles of Jaemin with the past love story of his late brother Hamin and Samang. Through this narrative contrast, we witness Hamin's tragic love story unfold while also seeing the devastating aftermath of his death on Jaemin and their now separated parents. This arc delivers the most raw emotional gut punch I've ever received reading a webtoon, as it draws a unique parallel between Hamin's vibrant yet fleeting life and the lasting pain it left behind, exposing the deep scars carried by Jaemin and his fractured family. Jaemin faces a complex web of trauma, regret, and isolation following his brother's death. He adopts a cheerful facade not by choice but as a way to support his grieving mother. By becoming the bright child, Jaemin hopes to fill the void Hamin left behind and prevent further sorrow from breaking apart his family. However, this forced role becomes suffocating as his father grows distant, afraid of repeating the same mistakes, while his mother clings to Jaemin, projecting her hopes onto him. Jaemin is never given the space to grieve properly, and instead he's pressured into being his mother's emotional anchor. When his mother eventually finds stability in her new husband, Jaemin loses his life's purpose, and echoes the same feelings of isolation that once consumed his older brother. Jaemin's story is one of healing and the struggles that come with it. His anger is multifaceted as he's enraged at the world for taking his brother, himself for not being there, and all the people who tried but failed to help. It's a frustration born from the realization that there's no single person to blame. Everyone and no one is at fault. His resentment towards Samang is less about her actions and more about what she represents, the painful what-ifs and regrets that he cannot confront. She becomes a symbol of everything he wishes he could have done, embodying his own helplessness and the unresolved grief that haunts him. I love the two brothers' story for its portrayal of genuine, complex relationships. The narrative doesn't villainize the parents for pushing Hamin to his limits, instead it acknowledges their humanity. Hamin's mother, for instance, may seem ruthless, but beneath her stern exterior, she was once a young woman with her own dreams of attending university and pursuing a career. And now, as an adult trying to navigate the challenges of parenting, we see her flaws and her attempts to rebuild a relationship with Jaemin. While her actions are certainly questionable, the story allows room for her growth and redemption, showing that she is more than her past mistakes. Like every character in this series, she's multifaceted, reminding us that adults too are still trying to figure things out. We often grow up thinking adults have everything under control, but as we age, we realize they are just as uncertain and searching for answers as anyone else. This realization makes the process of forgiveness even more touching, especially in Jaemin's journey of healing and reconciling with his parents. The portrayal of their once fractured relationship gradually healing is both touching and realistic, with how long it took and how painful it was to accept. It isn't just the portrayal of trauma, but the process of healing that is important. Sameng's advice to Jaemin resonates deeply as more than just words, but a chance for Sameng to grieve and come to terms with Hamin's death. It feels like something she wished she could have told Hamin years ago, and in a way life gives her another chance, not to save Hamin, but to offer support to his lost younger brother. Since Hamin's passing, his younger brother has struggled with deteriorating relationships, distancing himself from others behind a facade. However, this arc highlights his growth as he learns that people genuinely care about him, and that he doesn't have to bear his burdens alone, accepting the hands that reach out to him. Summer in literature often symbolizes a period of growth, transformation, and the tumultuous journey into adulthood. In this arc, we witness Jaemin's emotional evolution as he grapples with his brother's death and gradually opens himself up to the kindness of his friends. By exploring Hamin's past and coming to understand his brother's experiences, Jaemin begins to release his misplaced resentment towards Sameng and reconcile with his family. This journey of acceptance allows him to bridge the gap with his estranged parents, recognizing that they too carry the deep wounds of loss. To me, Hamin's Flower was the most impactful arc of the entire series, as it not only laid the groundwork for the last 2 seasons, but it also carries messages important beyond the medium. Through the intertwined stories of the 2 brothers, we see the importance of understanding, forgiveness, and the collective healing that can arise from shared suffering. Overall, I think the author Hongduk does a great job with handling these sensitive and heavy topics, while still creating a story that's absolutely heartbreaking. Originally, I didn't really like that the focus shifted from the main couple, but after finishing the entire arc, I was genuinely so invested in Hamin's story that it didn't really matter to me anymore. And with each new season, Hongduk manages to create a more complete story than the previous one that still carries on with the characters and themes of the last arc. Shifting into the fall season, the leaves bring with it a time of change and reflection. Autumn often symbolizes a period of transformation and a shedding of the past. Following Gaeul and Subin, both characters related to the already known cast, we dive into themes of unresolved trauma and past mistakes that come to the forefront. Gaeul's arc is built on her struggle with the scars of her past, being bullied in middle and high school that left deep wounds in her heart. Now, after clawing her way through her depression, she's finally at a place where she can attend university and attempt to live a normal life. However, the past isn't so easily forgotten, especially when she encounters Subin, the boy she suspects was one of her tormentors. Subin, however, is oblivious to her pain and doesn't even recognize Gaeul, which only intensifies her internal conflict. The autumn arc focuses on Gaeul and Subin's journey towards healing, but also highlights their external relationships and how it influences their personal growth. Just as autumn marks a time when nature begins to wither and prepare for renewal, this part of the story showcases the maturity and inner changes of the characters. Gaeul, who is haunted by her past, struggles to confront her old memories and the trauma that still clings to her. Subin has to recognize his own past actions and mistakes, and take responsibility for the wrongdoings of not just himself, but his friends as well. It is through the duo's interactions with each other and the people around them that they both begin to face their traumatic pasts. In a shared moment with Gaeul, Subin reflects on the tragedy of Hamin's death, acknowledging the lifelong regret his family will carry. He realizes the harsh reality that while they can't blame Hamin, who desperately tried to avoid his own fate, they are left to grapple with the pain of his absence. Subin's perspective that it's better to live on and face one's past rather than succumb to despair is the message that kept Gaeul going. She, unlike Hamin, has managed to endure her struggles, moving forward despite the weight of her memories. Hamin's tragic end and Gaeul's perseverance are disturbingly similar in how close it was for both of them to end up on the opposing side. Where Hamin's story ended in despair, Gaeul's continues and shows that healing, though difficult, is possible. Gaeul pushes through her past and finds embrace in those who have supported her, like her mother and her friend Sameng. This journey offers a glimpse into what might have been for Hamin and the power that others hold over each other. Through Gaeul's growth, we see the devastating ripple effects of suicide and also the hope for healing and understanding of those left behind. What made this season more interesting is the contrasting approach to the consequences of bullying and trauma. Characters like Iri Kim and Hyoksu refuse to acknowledge their wrongdoings, justifying their actions with shallow excuses. They're unable to face the real issues and hide behind self-rationalizations and twisted memories to ease their guilt. Meanwhile, Subin, who is their best friend, stands out because he chooses to take responsibility for his mistakes. He doesn't merely help Gaeul out of affection, and his actions stem from a genuine desire to right his past wrongs. Gaeul and Subin's journey reflects Autumn as a whole, with its focus on transformation and the shedding of old layers. It shows us that healing is not linear, and while the past may still haunt us, the decision to face it can lead to new beginnings. Autumn focuses on a time of maturity when plants can no longer grow and begin to die, and we can see that in different characters. A lack of maturity in both Iri, Kim, and Hyoksu, as well as Subin's decision to separate himself from the two of them. It is Subin's reflection of who he was associating with and his maturity to step away from them that brought about his change as a person and acceptance of who he was. I really liked the fall season, specifically Gaeul and Subin, as they are my favorite couple in the entire series. It wasn't nearly as heartbreaking as summer or as lovey as spring, but more of a transition season to explore the consequences of bullying and the experience of someone who's lived through it. The season is a perfect change in feeling, just like fall normally is, to bring upon the time of winter, which often symbolizes death, dormancy, and the harsh cold that strips away the remnants of warmth. Winter serves as the backdrop for the series' most intense and emotionally raw arc, diving deeply into the devastating consequences of bullying while bringing the story to a satisfying conclusion. As the final chapter in Seasons of Blossom, this arc weaves together the experiences, regrets, and growth of various characters, creating a narrative that ties the series full circle. At its center is Dongchae, a character whose struggles embody the cold, desolate nature of winter and reflect themes of isolation and despair. Dongchae's experience shows the crushing effects of bullying and the overwhelming sense of loneliness that comes from feeling trapped. He internalizes his pain, pushing away even his own family as he spirals deeper into isolation. The narrative delves into the helplessness that comes from watching someone suffer in silence, as seen through the perspective of his teacher and sister. The reflection of this helplessness is exemplified more so when Jaemin is brought into the story. With the passing of his brother, Jaemin understands the devastating consequences of such a situation, and his determination to prevent the same outcome with Dongchae becomes a touching reflection of his own journey and the lessons he's learned. Winter's chilling symbolism reflects Dongchae's emotional state. He stands on the edge, seeing no way out of his suffering except through an escape as final as Hamin's. In a haunting moment, Dongchae recalls the day he witnessed Hamin take his life. He saw both the desperation and the eerie sense of liberation on Hamin's face, the release from all the pain he had endured. The memory lingers in Dongchae's mind, making him see the dark allure of escape and the temptation to be free from the crushing weight of his circumstances. Both Subin and Jaemin reach out, but it is Jaemin who ultimately catches Dongchae at his lowest point. The person who once lost everything to the darkness of suicide now steps in to save someone from the same fate. When Jaemin confronts Dongchae, his words are raw and filled with the weight of his own grief. Jaemin isn't merely speaking to convince Dongchae to stay, he's sharing his own lived experience and the deep scars left by his brother's passing. His plea is filled with the anguish of someone who has felt the impact of such a loss firsthand. Subin's reaching out to save Dongchae can be attuned to him resolving himself for the better and atoning for his past sins. He's aware of the consequences of one's actions and has been seeing the pain one endures directly through Gaeul. I love how the author gives the characters who are healing opportunities to not only save those whose fates they are intertwined with, but to make amends for past events that they can't change. In my eyes, the winter arc is an opportunity for each character who has lost a piece of themselves to make up for that missing part. Winter symbolizes the end of a character's struggles, and all these characters scrambling to save Dongchae is like the end of their struggles of the past, because finally their actions, or rather lack thereof, have caught up to the present and they are able to prevent a similar situation. I believe the true message of the story unfolds as Salming explains Gail's resolve to overcome her depression. Gail's fight to keep living was sparked by her friend's struggle, giving her the strength to carry on despite the painful memories and anxieties that haunted her. At first, she continued living for the sake of her loved ones, but gradually she found small moments of hope and eventually chose to live for herself. Similarly, Jaemin and the others tell Dongchae to live, if not for himself, then for others, to at least give those who care for him a chance to reach out and give him a hand, the same hand that Jaemin was not able to extend to his older brother. In many ways, the winter aspect of the series reflects the death of hope for Dongchae. The relentless bullying, his fear of being seen by his sister in such a vulnerable state, and the sheer desperation have snuffed out the light in his eyes. But winter also symbolizes the end of his suffering, the closing chapter of his painful high school years and the harsh conditions that have beaten him down. The story's message at heart is the devastating impact of suicide on those left behind and the reasons why it's worth fighting to stay alive. The narrative offers a glimmer of hope, encouraging characters and readers alike to find small reasons to keep living, even if it's just for the sake of friends, family, or simple moments of joy. Through the collective efforts of Jaemin, Sameng, and Subin, Dongchae is given the chance to survive the winter of his despair and look forward to the hope of a new season, just as they all strive to move forward from their shared past traumas. This entire series was a genuine masterpiece and probably one of my favorite pieces of fiction just by how well the author depicts feelings. I can tear up while watching or reading a lot of things, but the power this webtoon had on me to make me genuinely start sobbing after reading parts of this story was really insane, and maybe I'm just a bum for that, but it hit me really personally. I was crying multiple times rereading the story for this script, and while I was writing the script and editing, and I honestly don't think I can read the story ever again because it would just continue to break my heart. It's a short 130-ish chapter read, the pacing is great, and it has a super cute art style that adjusts itself to match the feelings of the story. Seasons of Blossom to me was a masterpiece, and I don't think I'll ever be able to experience a similar webtoon story for a while to come.